Right. Awesome. I think I saw that pop up. There it is. So, as always, I do want to remind everyone that we do record these sessions. And if you wish to remain anonymous, just change your name on your um, Zoom and just keep your camera off. We will address questions at the end. And if there are any um, issues at all, you can, drop them in the chat. If there's something you want us to revisit, we're happy to do it. Or they may answer your question for you in the chat. So, Wendy already addressed the handouts with you guys. So, with that being said, we are all with all our extension crew with the team from this multi-state effort. We are all here for supporting you, and we are all equal opportunity institutions. There we go. I think we're getting stuck here. So my name is Marie Eric. I'm going to get us started here, and my partner in crime is Miss Lori Welch, and she is from Penn State University, and she will be joining us today. So just remember that this series is a step toward improving or maintaining your bone health. We want you to invest in your health and live healthier lifestyles, especially for your bone health, which is the purpose of this particular webinar series. And we are here to support you. So I want to know, do just a quick little check-in with everyone. If anyone has any progress they would like to share or anything they would like to add. Wendy, I can't see the chat, but if you could see if there's anything that gets dropped in there.
Sure will.
I will add that I have been a little bit more conscious of my calcium intake. And I had my 3 little granddaughters for several days, and it kind of made me a little bit more conscious of how much calcium they were intaking, just to make sure that they are getting all that they need to build their little bones.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Let me double check the other sections.
Quiet group today, Marie.
It's okay.
Well, you guys know that this just means there's opportunity at the end of today's session that we're going to want to know what your bone building steps are going to be.
That's
right. Okay. So let's see. Excellent. Says my 5th metatarsal has now healed 80% after 10 weeks. So even before the session, you've been doing something right. So keep it up. That's great news. Thanks for sharing.
Awesome.
Anybody else? Anybody started watching their calcium? Maybe you made an appointment to get your bone density tested. Anything else that you'd like to share? All right. Well, I'm not seeing any, but feel free to write it in anytime.
Anytime. Absolutely. Thank you. So we are now ready to kind of complete our focus on that 3rd step. And so today we are going to really talk about some proper nutrition, but let's be realistic about this and think about our general health as well as our bone health. So we've talked a lot about some certain nutrients that we get from our foods, that, these all play roles in building our strong bones. So here are a few questions to kind of get our minds ready to go. So I don't think that this slide works appropriately in this webinar function, but for whatever reason, so what are the 4 nutrients of public health concern? And I know we kind of talked about this maybe last session. And another question I want you to really think about, what are the 2 key nutrients for our bone health? And I know we have hit on those pretty hard. And then the next one is, what are the 3 other nutrients that may help to strengthen our bones? And finally, what is the symbol of the USDA's healthy eating pattern? which that's a given. It's on the screen. Anybody drop anything in for me, Wendy? I'm guessing
No,
not.
nothing yet.
Okay. So it is a quiet group today, and that's okay. So our 4 nutrients of public health concern, these were identified in the dietary guidelines for Americans, and that's potassium, fiber, calcium, and vitamin D. And the 2 key nutrients that we keep talking about really are the calcium and the vitamin D. The other 3 significant ones we have talked about and touched on are the magnesium, the phosphorus, and the vitamin K. And they are involved in bone strengthening, but we also do realize that research is really needed to make recommendations for these in regard to our bone health specifically. But we also need to remember that too much inorganic phosphorus, like that found in the sodas and colas, is really not good for our bones. And of course, that My Plate is a symbol of our USDA eating pattern. So we want to make sure that all of the 5 food groups are included in our daily intake, and those nutrients are involved, working together for our bone health. So let's move forward. Today, we're going to look at food components that may help or harm our bone health, and we call them bone builders or bone bandits. So let's see here. So I believe this is where Lori's going to pick up. No?
Sure. I wasn't. I thought I was going a little bit further, but sure. Nope, we're good here. Nope, we're good. Yeah, we've also called them, we called them bone robbers here in Pennsylvania, but bone bandits, bone robbers. So again, a lot of times we might hear this information on blogs and social media, friends and relatives, and there may be some misinformation. So you could see on the screen here. So what we would like our extension programs is to look through and critically review the research, the commentary, everything on the research papers that gives us. And then we're going to get the most unbiased and research-based information to sort through it. No longer, because it's on the internet, it's true. So we are constantly bombarded with the media. So we're going to talk about all these things. Next slide, please. Okay, so soda. So excessive consumption of soft drinks, specifically cola, is associated with lower bone density and risk of hip fracture. And Marie, when she got on, said she was with her 3 granddaughters and she was looking about the calcium. And I don't know the age group of people on here, but I remember growing up, we always have a glass of milk with our dinner. Now I see people with fast food and stuff. They're having sodas and stuff. So soda is, I've seen even little kids show up in sippy cups with soda. So our society does a lot of soda. So the displacement of the calcium containing beverages, like replacing milk that everybody used to have at dinner or at meals, has been a concern, especially with the soft drink or soda consumption, especially among growing children and teens. And so again, that's why bone bandits. Does this include diet colas? Jennifer says yes, all sodas. Especially the colas. It doesn't matter if it's diet or not. It's not the sugar in there that makes it, or the sugar substitute or artificial sweetener. It's all sodas, especially the colas. And the one ingredient, which I'm going to cover now, is, especially in cola, is inorganic phosphorus. And Marie sort of mentioned that a little bit in passing in an introductory slide, in the form of additive phosphoric acid, which is not usually added to non-cola drinks because it adds a slightly sour taste. Hence, the lemon lime sodas aren't as detrimental as the colas. Although the mineral phosphorus is important in the structure of bone, the calcium phosphate forms helps with the matrix of the bone. The excessive intake in the form found in cola soft drinks, which is the inorganic phosphorus, can have adverse effects on bone health. What happens is excessive phosphorus intake, when accompanied by low calcium intake, decreases blood calcium level. So when you're not getting enough calcium and you're drinking a lot of soda, you're starting to run into some problems there. So what happens is the bones release calcium to maintain the blood levels. This is called bone reabsorption. So blood calcium must be maintained with a small concentration range since it's required for our nerves and muscles, including our heart, to work properly. Next slide, please. So if you look at the bullet points here, so occasional, and we know occasional anything is not harmful as long as individuals continue to consume milk or other sources of calcium. And we should think of soft drinks as once in a while items in your diet. Regular consumption of soft drinks does not fall into my plate or any other guidelines for a healthy diet. So sometimes food. Now, the next one is coffee. I'm a coffee drinker. I love my coffee. And I think Marie, we've never met, but I can see by Marie's face, she is too.
Yes.
How many of you enjoyed a cup of coffee today? The relationship between coffee consumption and bone mineral density and fracture risk is not firm, so there's a little hope yet. But the most recent research indicates that drinking coffee is associated with an increased fracture risk in women, but not in men. There is some evidence that coffee intake can act as a bone bandit. You can have some coffee, but it seems wise to avoid high intakes of coffee. So yeah, and you can have it, but not all the time. Now let's move on to tea. Black, green, oolong, and white tea come from the plant Camellia sinensis, while herbal teas come from a variety of other plants. Green tea is non-fermented, oolong is partially fermented, and black tea is fermented, and all of these contain caffeine unless they've been decaffeinated. Studies have found a positive association between tea consumption and bone mineral density. However, the effect of tea on fracture risk is less clear. So they're saying most teas, unless it's decaffeinated, have some form of caffeine, but they're not 100% sure of the link yet. But again, if you're a tea drinker, moderation is probably best. Next slide, please. So the bottom line is there is limited evidence of the effect of caffeine on bone mineral density and your fracture risk. So high intakes of coffee may harm bone health, and tea may be protective where teas may be that doesn't make sense. And tea may be protective, whereas tea may be protective. That makes sense there in that line. So Marie, do you understand that slide?
No, I think
Okay.
it just was a typo on
Okay,
there.
I just caught it, even though I
Yeah.
previewed it.
Tea is not considered a bone bandit,
No, not like coffee,
not like coffee.
but yes. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought that doesn't sound right. Sorry about that. Salt and sodium. A medical review of postmenopausal women in Korea found a significant increase in calcium excretion when urinary sodium excretion exceeded a certain amount. In addition to increased calcium excretion, serum bone turnover markers were highly significant at a level of sodium intake. So basically, these results suggest that excessive sodium intake can accelerate bone turnover rates, at least in postmenopausal Korean women. Now, again, that was one study. Now, there was another study done in the Women's Health Initiative study that found no relationship between sodium intake and changes in the bone density or fracture risk of any site. So, in fact, higher sodium intakes were associated with higher the bone mass. So this, again, is conflicting research. So what it tells us that sodium may not be a bone bandit. However, current dietary guidelines recommend consuming 2,300 milligrams a day or less to reduce the risk of hypertension or high blood pressure. This amount is well above the amount that our bodies need to function properly and well below usual intakes in the United States. So again, since sodium has not been proven, but again, we know high salt and high sodium diet's not good for us anyway, so we should avoid it. So again, they did the study where sodium intake, and again, it was done in postmenopausal women within current guidelines, is unlikely to significantly have any effect on osteoporosis. But best lessons learned, we should limit the intake of canned and processed foods, which we know are high in salt. And then we want to make sure we're reading those nutrition facts labels to avoid foods with a lot of sodium, anything that has a daily value of 20% or more. Now this slide, I don't know if we want to pull this up, but this is a handout that we have. And it was a handout that was given to you, and I'm not sure if it's in the chat now, but it's an activity where you are going to take a daily menu that is high in sodium and think of ways to reduce the sodium to get your goal closer to under the 23 milligrams. Most people consume 4,000 to 6,000 milligrams a day, which is way, way above. 2,300 is sort of the upper limit. And if you have high blood pressure, that's usually it's about 1,500 milligrams. So when we get this handout, again, we can't really see it on here too well, you are going to come up with ideas to see how to reduce the sodium. Do you want me to pull that up, Marie? Or no, just keep going. We'll pull it up. If we have time, we'll pull it up at the end.
Yeah.
It's a handout.
And it's also been dropped in the chat as well.
Great.
Sorry, Laurie, didn't mean to.
No, that's okay. No, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I forgot that it was small that we couldn't see it. But again, it's a great way to, you can look at that handout to see ways that you can personally reduce your sodium intake. So now we're going to move on to fiber. So think about what foods you eat that contain fiber. And if you see this nice healthy picture here of the fiber, it's a bulking agent that keeps food moving efficiently through your gut. It helps reduce your risk for constipation. High fiber diets include fiber from whole grains, fruits, and veggies in the dietary guidelines for American eating. And when Marie had the My Plate pulled up earlier in the slide, you could see there was a grain category, and we want the to be whole grains in there. So a diet high in fiber is associated with a lower risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and digestive problems like diverticulitis and those kind of disorders as well. Now the next slide, phytates versus prebiotic fibers. So phytates in some high fiber foods interfere with calcium absorption from the gut. They are found in legumes, beans, wheat bran. They are particular concern in developing countries where there are high intakes and low intakes of minerals. In contrast, dietary fibers, particularly prebiotic fibers, are fermented by bacteria in the colon to form short-chain fatty acids and decrease the absorption of minerals such as calcium. So the bottom line on what I just said there is those fibers that are fermented may aid in the absorption of minerals that are important for bone health, and there are lots of health benefits of incorporating diets with high fiber in them. And again, such as beans, whole grains. Most people do not eat enough dietary fiber, and it becomes a public health concern. Just like I said, Americans usually eat too much salt. We don't eat enough fiber as well. The guidelines recommend that most Americans increase whole grains, legumes, which are beans, fruits, and vegetables to improve the quality of their diet and reduce their risk for chronic disease. And this, Marie, I believe, is your slide.
Yes, ma'am. So we are moving on now to oxalates, and we kind of touched on those in the last class when we talked about the importance of calcium for bone health. So oxalates occur naturally in a wide variety of foods in varying amounts, and these compounds actually bind to calcium in the gut, and they form calcium oxalate, which we cannot absorb. So when we eat foods high in oxalates, some or much of the calcium in that food is not absorbed. We say that the calcium in these foods is what they call not bioavailable, since we cannot actually absorb it in our bodies. So it can't be used to aid with biological functions that it would be intended for. Additionally, the crystals of calcium oxalate can actually form kidney stones in people that are susceptible to kidney stones. So, last time we talked about spinach, which is a great vegetable, but not a real great source of calcium. It has a good amount of calcium, but because of its high oxalate content, the calcium is not bioavailable for us. So collard greens, kale, broccoli, they have lower oxalate content than spinach, and therefore the calcium in those particular items is more bioavailable for our bodies to absorb. You can see some other popular foods that have higher levels of oxalate. So they are, over here listed. And so, you just kind of have to play that balancing game. So there's nothing wrong with eating spinach. I love spinach. I like it in my salad. I just realized that I have to have something else there to counteract. So, again, this goes in learning about our diets and how to actually judge what we're to consume. So the bottom line here is there is no need to avoid foods that contain oxalates unless you are told to by your physician, and that might be that you need to avoid those if you have an issue with kidney stones. They are all very healthful foods that can be enjoyed in very small amounts. But also be sure to get your calcium in your diet, maybe from some other sources, and don't depend on these foods for your only calcium intake. So this is another one of those fun little handouts that we have, and it's a really good way to just kind of be able to explore the different things. So it's just a simple word search, but it's a great tool just to kind of give you a reminder. So that will go out with your additional items that Wendy will be sending out. So now we're on to protein. And so proteins have many functions in the body. They provide the framework and support for muscles and bones and your skin. They help with digestion and fighting infections. They also help with the formation of red blood cells that deliver the oxygen in our, So there are numerous studies that have sought to determine whether or not a high protein diet is beneficial to bone health. So this is where the bone bandit accusations aimed at protein can be attributed to speculation surrounding the acid producing properties protein has within the body as our bodies metabolize it. So increased dietary protein intake can cause an increase in the body acid load. So loss of calcium in the urine is observed when there's an increase in acid in the body. So if you have a high protein diet, as your body processes that, it becomes a little bit more acidic. And so that the body's way of removing that is through the urine. However, they did a study monitoring calcium in women consuming high protein versus a moderate protein diet. And they found that though excretion of calcium in the urine was increased with the high protein diets, the increased loss of calcium was attributed to increased calcium absorption in the gut. So more calcium in, more calcium out. So the evidence is conflicting between the studies and the reviews, but the general trend that has emerged from this research is that dietary protein appears to have what they call an anabolic effect or a buildup effect on bones. So protein ultimately is a bone builder. That was a big mouthful. So, bottom line, My Plate recommends selecting protein from a variety of both plant and animal sources and, incorporate it in your diet. Think about it. Eggs, your Greek yogurt, your beans, your lentils, your fish. Those are really great sources. This is actually another handout that is really a great tool because it helps you to determine your basic protein needs. So I'm going to go through this really quickly with you. You will get this also, but it's just a very simple formula. So you would take your own personal body weight and you would convert it into kilograms, and you would do that by dividing it by 2.2 to yield kilograms, and then you would multiply that times 0.8 grams per kilogram, which is your recommended daily allowance for protein. And that final number would give you how many grams of protein you should take in per day. So if you weighed 160 pounds, for example, you would divide that by 2.2, and you would end up with 72.7. You would multiply that times the 0.8, and you would yield 58 grams out of that whole deal. So that's what a 160-pound person would need, would be 58 grams of protein per day. So it's a really simple calculation, and it's something you can do. And then you could just kind of use that as a tool to test yourself and determine if you are actually taking in enough protein. So now we move on to this alkaline diet. Has anyone heard of the alkaline diet before? Wendy, I'm going to see if they drop anything in the chat.
All right, I got an eye on it. So far, I'm getting no's.
Okay. So the alkaline or the acid ash diet, let me say that again, acid ash diet focuses on aiding the body's natural buffering system, and by consuming a balance of acid producing to base producing. So they're talking about acids and bases, and they want the body's pH to balance out. So dietary protein contributes to the dietary acid load, mainly due to the metabolism of some of the amino acids into sulfuric acid. Therefore, the acid ash hypothesis views high protein intake as detrimental to bone health due to protein's acid producing qualities within the body. But the average American diet is acid producing. We eat a lot of meat. We are meat eaters. There's no evidence of associations between dietary acid load and body mass index, bone mineral density has been established. A high acid forming diet is unlikely to produce severe acidosis that overwhelms the body's buffering system. Additionally, there is no evidence that dietary changes that increase the amount of acid excreted by the body also lower calcium balance in the body. So, bottom line, there is no evidence to support this theory. So, the benefits, there's no evidence that supports this theory that there is a health benefit of eating a diet to balance the pH within the body. Even though the basis of the alkaline diet is not steeped in a research evidence-based theory, some of the foods associated with this alkaline diet, like the fruits and the vegetables and lean meats, are actually healthy choices that we should be using anyway. So it's important to realize that some of these fad diets can be actually harmful when they exclude entire food groups. The paleo diet, for example, is a variation of an alkaline diet, and it eliminates grains, dairy, and legumes. Such a diet is not really suitable for many people because it could really actually compromise their calcium status. So, we've covered a lot. So let's take a few moments to bring back some of these key points to light, okay? So we have a list over here of Bandits, and then we have a list of builders. Soft drinks are on that undesirable list over there. They contribute empty calories. They might give you a little bit of energy because they have sugar in them, but that's short-lived and it's not really nutritious. And they can displace more nutritious beverages in the meal pattern, just like Lori had pointed out about the milk. You know, it used to be you had a glass of dinner with milk, and now that's not always the case. And the cola varieties contain inorganic phosphorus as an additive, which can actually harm our bones. So we need to remember that. Build Your Bones classifies soft drinks as a bone bandit. They should be considered that once in a while treat rather than everyday thing. So let's move on to the coffee. Oh, I love coffee. I'm sorry, it's my thing. It is a very
Mine
popular
too, Marie.
drink. I know it's hard. It's hard. It is
Just the
generally
smell of
safe to
it.
consume, but coffee may act as a bone bandit when you consume very
Too much.
large amounts. So just keep that in mind. If having coffee is part of your daily routine, you can continue having some coffee, but avoid taking 3 or more cups of coffee per day. So, Lori, we just have to balance it and just remember. No
There
more
is
than
a
3 cups.
question, is decaf better? Yes, because the caffeine is sort of the bone bandit. But no offense, I don't want to drink decaf coffee.
Defeats the purpose for me. So, okay, so now fiber is not a bone bandit because it is the phytate, because I got a typo here, is the phytate is present in some high fiber foods that interferes with absorption of calcium in the intestines. The health benefits of a diet rich in fiber outweigh the reduced calcium absorption from your legumes, for example. Fiber is very important. Our bodies really need it. I agree completely with that sentence that, you know, the health benefit far outweighs the risk when it comes to your calcium absorption. So, the appropriate recommendation is to meet both daily fiber and calcium needs. And so if you can do that, that's really wonderful. The Institute of Medicine recommends 38 grams a day for men ages 50 and under, 30 grams a day for men 51 and older, 25 grams a day for women 50 and under, 21 grams, a day for women 51 or older. So do look at your fiber intake, as you go through and you assess what you're taking in each day. So we have those oxalates that fall into that same category as those dietary phytates. There are bone bandits, but should not be avoided in an effort to promote bone health. Remember my spinach. I love my spinach, but I can balance that out because I can add some kale to that salad. So I can put in other things that will help me to balance out that oxalate. So remember, the oxalates kind of reduce that absorption of calcium, but you know, we can work around that. The appropriate recommendation is that individuals be mindful of which foods contain the high amounts of the oxalate and plan to get the calcium from other sources. So the observational studies of tea consumption have found associations of increased bone mineral density with tea consumption. Maybe we got to swap over, Lori. We're going to have to work some tea in maybe.
I know.
So
How
remember,
about
tea may be that bone
coffee-flavored?
builder. So we'll have that one
Coffee
cup of
flavored.
coffee in the morning, then we'll swap over to tea and have a couple of.
Coffee flavored tea.
Oh, okay. So protein has been shown to have a modestly anabolic effect on bones in many trials. That means it is a bone builder. So we can, if that's what you feel like you want to do, is increase your protein intake a little bit. Again, use that tool we gave you to figure out if you're even getting the accurate amount for yourself. Adequate protein is important for muscle health, which is necessary, for us to maintain strength and balance to protect those bones. All right, let's see, what do we have next? All right, so is this you, Lori, or is this me?
I think we'll go. And I also want to say, I noticed there's a lot of specific questions in here. I just want to remind folks that this presentation and this series is the research for general. Everybody's going to have a little bit of different situation. So if you have very specific questions regarding diet, it's great to see a registered dietitian. You always want to talk to your healthcare professionals. And you could see, as the studies we were talking about, there's no cut and dry. We're looking at some other things. So again, if you have very, very specific questions related to this food or that, it's great if you can get in to see a registered dietitian or talk to your healthcare provider. What we're talking about is in generalizations of things that have been shown to be bone robbers or bone bandits. Sorry, we call them robbers in Pennsylvania, bone bandits and bone builders. So but again, so that sort of ties in the summary. So a diet with a variety is going to have some bone bandits and some bone builders. You want to stress to have more bone builders than bone bandits, and just be aware, like Marie and I were joking about coffee. We like our coffee, but we realize we can't drink coffee all day long, even though we'd like to, we don't. So again, you just have to have a diet with variety and just realize what you're putting into your body. Again, following the dietary guidelines will ensure that the benefits will outweigh the risks. Again, use that as a guideline to help you have a good overall eating pattern, eating plan for your daily life. And again, moderation of anything, especially caffeine, particularly from coffee, is recommended.
Perfect.
Next, okay. Oh, so we're going to do a couple stretches, if that's okay. And we do know exercise is a great way to build strong bones. A lot of times it's strength training, but we're going to do a few simple stretches since we do have a few minutes here. So we'll do this and a neck stretch, and then I'll demonstrate here. So a simple neck stretch, you're going to begin upright, either standing or sitting. And I'm sitting down, and I'm actually going to pull my background off. If I can get that off here. No filter. And again, you're going to see not a messy office, but an office. I can get the filter off. Maybe I can't get the filter off. Okay. Let's see if I was trying to get the filter. No. There we go. There we go. See a little better without the background, but we're going to, you could be standing or sitting with this, again, straight spine, and let them know, again, any kind of exercise is a good bone builder. And we're going to do some simple stretches. So we're going to, again, sit up or stand up with straight spine, and you're going to turn your head to the right with a slight stretch and hold it for 15 seconds. So you're just going to, I'm sitting, we're just going to turn. This is my right, and you're just going to hold it for 15 seconds. And I don't have a timer, so we're just going to pretend it's 15 seconds. And then you're going to go the other way. Again, this could be done sitting or standing. And again, we know exercise is good for a lot of things, including calcium. And again, a lot of times we talk about strength and resistance training, but stretching is great. And I think it's a great way to end some of these heavy duty nutrition lessons that Marie and I did. So that was a simple neck stretch. And again, you could repeat that on your own 3 to 5 times. The next one is the ankle. I'll go over it and then I'll push my chair back, and you can see the woman in the picture here. You sit towards the edge of your chair and stretch out your legs in front of you. You want to keep your heels on the floor with one foot and point your toes towards you. Hold this position for 15 seconds and then alternate with the other foot. So again, I'm gonna move my camera down here. Hopefully you can see my feet. You're kind of just stretched like that. You hold it for about 15 seconds. And again, you want to have it secure. I'm on a rolling chair. I don't recommend that. You hold it for about 15 seconds. And then you're going to switch it out. And again, this is a great exercise you can do if you're working at your desk. These are all exercises. And again, you are going to get a copy of the recording. So if you wanted to, you could look at these exercises and try them. And again, grip the sides if you need a little bit more support. The next one is demonstrated. We're going to do a chest stretch. You're sitting straight up. You lift your arms at your shoulders height with your palms facing forward, as you can see in the picture. Move your arms back, squeezing your shoulder blades together so you feel a slight comfortable stretch. Hold for 15 seconds and you repeat 3 to 5 times. So again, I'm just going to move my chair here. And again, go like this, and you're kind of just stretching back, palms up, and you're kind of just stretching forward. And you hold it 3 to 5 seconds, and then you do it a couple times. Again, this is a good stretch. And you can see the nice woman in the chair there. And again, avoid twisting your arms as you sweep them back. So again, it's just sort of a kind of a motion like that. That feels good if you're sitting all day. Now let's see how many more. Oh, I think that was all. Okay.
That was it. Awesome job demonstrating those. It's always hard to do those when you're doing a virtual something. So
yeah, we figured we'd get involved a little bit. And now towards the end of this presentation, it's as we do every week, it's time to set goals for the next week. So Marie and I talked about the research surrounding specific substances as potential bone builders or bandits. And so take a minute to think about how the things that Marie and I discussed today may impact your bone health. And so you want to make a goal for this week that will contribute to increasing a bone builder or decreasing a bone bandit for your lifestyle. And I know Marie and I were talking about coffee, and we already know we should limit our coffee.
it's so true. So very true. But I think that sometimes if you're not ready to commit to making a change, at least make a self-assessment and be honest with yourself. How many sodas are you drinking a day or even a week? Or, Lori and I and our coffee issue that we have, but, look at, are you consuming enough calcium or enough protein? You're going to get the handout. So, do the math and see if you're, follow your diet for a few days, see what you're actually taking in, do a self-assessment, and then maybe you can use that as your tool to make your choices. What do you want to do? Drink less soda, maybe have 2 sodas a week instead of 8 or 10, or is there a barrier to your plan that you need to remove? There are a lot of different things. It's really hot and humid here in Florida. It's been really oppressive lately. It can be 8 o'clock at night and the heat index is still 100. So I take advantage of my office and I walk the halls in our office because it's indoors and it's air conditioned. So if you have a mall you can go walk at, or a walking partner that would go do something in the evening, that would be great. Yes,
We've
ma'am.
got some good goals already posted. Carol, you are my new BFF. I tell you what, good, easy exercises while watching Hallmark movies.
Oh, yes.
That's my fave. Cut back on Pepsi is one. There is, let's see, I saw increase in kale, less coffee. Carolyn, I really like your specific goal of cutting back 4 cups of coffee in the morning to 3. Very specific, and that's a great way for you to be able to measure it. Cut out some of the large sodas. Excellent. Yeah, Amber, definitely that's a great way. If you can be very specific, remember when we talked about, I believe, SMART goals at one point, probably one of the first sessions,
Mhm.
and how to prepare a SMART goal to keep yourself accountable. Yes, and Amber, thank you for that. Keep them coming in.
Awesome. I love hearing this. I really do. Well, any other questions?